Good morning. I thought we would do a quick rundown of what we've got growing in the garden before it gets really hot out here. The sun is already on the gate, and by 10 o'clock, this little area will be scorching hot. So let's get started over here. Come around to where we've planted this shady side of the carport. We've got mint in the small pots, and they're adjusting. I took some flowers that were also growing along with the mint out, and I've moved them over here in the shade now that we've got a dry spell. We also have this larger green leaf here. It's edible, and it's said to be very good for blood sugar. And we have gotu-kola slowly spreading through here. You can see a few patches there and there. This is a variegated sepalica. This has beautiful leaves, although it did recently drop all of its leaves after being transplanted. But it's coming back. And it does have a flower, and this corner gets a bit of sun. We also have a bit of turmeric here. I left a few corms in there after harvesting these. I've also previously harvested a few others to transplant in other areas of the garden. Alongside it, we have some chrysandra growing here. It's starting to come back into flower. There's a few more buds coming up. This, at the moment, is just a few nursery pots, a few gifted plants, but I do have a lavender in here, which I just received from Sunrise Farms. So I'm excited to try to make this work, and it will get sun shortly. Let's have a few more branches coming in. Now along here, the main goal is to really hide this meter box that we have here by training some mandevilla vines up on our entry arbor. So that'll be planted in the ground behind these pots. A couple of those pavers can easily come up. I can pop those in. Coming over here to the main entrance of the garden, the large grasses are lemongrass or serra. And we'll start on this corner here. I have another beautiful variegated leaf here. This is a gardenia that's really starting to fill out. I've got to give it regular prunings to get it to flush out into a kind of a ball shape. In the mound of compost, I've planted a few seeds, and under all of this lemongrass mulch here is orange mint. I don't mind this in the ground. Orange mint I take regularly as a tea, and it grows well in the shade of these large clumps. We also have alternanthera here, and a few small chrysandra coming up in the middle. I want those orange flowers flanking either side of the entrance here. And the same over here, along with a few containers. A lime tree here, some moss rose, or some call it Dubai rose here in this pot. It's coming back after the wet season, and those are just flowers that my daughter can pick. I also have a plumbago here that is having a little trouble with the season transition. The leaves are looking rough, but I never worry about this plant. It's dropped all of its leaves even before the move and come back so strong. In here we have a Japanese aralea along with some spinach growing underneath. This variety is my favorite spinach alternative and has these beautiful purple flowers. In this pot, I just took out some finished cosmos and have put in a shrub that I picked up at the botanical gardens that was covered in butterflies. And I went to their nursery and I got a small seedling, and it's starting to branch out. And it will have these red and orange flowers that the butterflies just love. Behind it there in the shady corner, we have a copperleaf plant coming up, and that will get huge. It'll fill in this back corner behind the cosmos. And these cosmos are really about done. They're very leggy now. But I'm letting them go to seed because I do want them to come back in the same area. And here you can see the side at the moment is getting more sun than the other. So these cosmos are really, or Chrysaandra, are really starting to bloom out. And there's some peeking through on this side. I just love that. I love that orange peeking through the maroon of the alternator, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong. Here in this first lower bed, I have sown marigolds, yellow marigolds. And in the bed behind it, we have papaya, one which is struggling, the other is doing a bit better, along with ground cherries and a dwarf mulberry. So this is very much a perennial bed. I believe in our area the ground cherries will either perennialize or self-sow. So that's something that we can get a lot of sweet fruit from and make jams and other products. On this side I have a few grapevines waiting to be planted, along with a dragon fruit. We have more of the orange mint coming through on this side. And again, I really want it to act as a ground cover over in this area because I drink it so often. We also have garlic chives here, some capsicum. Behind it we have red amaranth. And this is another great spinach alternative. It was much more mild than I expected it to be. So we'll be sowing more of that or letting these go to seed so we can get a few more. We also have here in this mound a bit more turmeric because we would like to get to where all of our herbs and spices come from our own storage. Here's a small dwarf morning glory. This clump came from the old house up on the rooftop garden in the pipe planters, and it has been divided several times to provide us with clumps all over the garden to get this bright morning blue. Here in front of me I also have this purple creeping Torrinia, which, you know, it's not very useful. I let the kids pick it whenever they want to. And so it's useful in that sense that they're not picking my more useful flowers. And in and around it I've sown some zinnias, more spinach stems that I'm putting in behind it. Another shade butterfly bush that I got from the botanical gardens. It's these beautiful little flowers, but something is eating it. I just planted it last weekend, so we'll see if it bounces back. I hope it does, because we've got a lot of butterfly species that visit, but they're not finding their nectar sources, so they fly off. Down on this side we have more of the amaranth, more turmeric, a green that we recently found at the market that was very nice. I will have to find the name of it, but I've just taken the stems, which still had the roots attached, and stuck it in the ground all over, and we'll see if it takes. That often works with niviti and kangkung and a few of the other greens, so we'll see. I have some more kochi peppers coming up here, and I have planted a zucchini here We'll see how that does. More of the dwarf morning glory, which I had divided and put in over here. But this is not to be mistaken with oregano, which has a very similar leaf. Now this garlic chive is in bloom, and this capsicum is producing quite well just off of morning sun. We also have a pineapple down on this corner, and one more bush that the Botanical Gardens nursery told me the butterflies are attracted to, and it can take some shade. So it gets morning sun over here, and then it's protected from the afternoon sun. If we continue around, there's yet another turmeric, a few more of those stems I planted, and what I believe to be a climbing rose. I've transplanted it over here, but the dog likes to cut this corner, and it has uprooted it a few times, so I've got this cement pot here just to deter the dog while this one's roots take. In the same area, you see a lot of bare cardboard. The rains have finished, but they have eaten up all of the cardboard and mulch, so I'm starting over again, working my way around, putting down whatever boxes and leaves and grasses I can gather. So this will all soon be covered. And for this front section of the house, I'll probably bring in some coconut coir to make it a nice, attractive mulch just along the front of the house. If we pan over this way, we have a passion fruit vine coming up, for which we will make a much larger trellis just as soon as we paint this wall, probably next week. Under it we have some aloe, some kangkung, some arrowroot over here beside the hibiscus. We also have a very young dwarf moringa, and that's a very useful plant. You've probably heard plenty about. It's nice to eat, the animals like it. Also makes very pretty flowers, and the flower makes maybe the most gorgeous curry I've ever seen on the table. I also have a guava here, which is doing well. It's still small, it's a slow grower, but once this comes into production, this will put out a lot of fruit, which can be pickled as an acharu, or eaten fresh, or used as a pear or apple substitute. I also have more pineapple, and my arlia, which I managed to move here from the old house. My father-in-law actually managed to move it here. This pot had cracked, and he has somehow managed to bind it together for us, and I'm very grateful. This went dormant during the rains, but in a few months' time this will be covered in blooms, which just smells so good. And this plant is special to us. It was gifted by some friends who had grown it from cuttings of their own. Coming around to the well, the cannas are a bit sad right now, adjusting to this dry spell, but that's okay. They make great mulch. I'll cut them back. And this vining dwarf morning glory is just putting out these beautiful blue blooms, and they're glowing in the mornings and at dusk. And behind it we do have some elephant ears and a very young palm back there, which will fill up this corner, along with, on the right side, a very young jasmine, which will bring a nice scent over to this corner. Behind it is a white asoka flower, but it's not very happy back here, not getting quite enough sun, so we'll probably move that it's getting scale, which is a clear sign it's too wet, not enough sun for it back here. In this pot we have agapanthus, which does not like a lot of water. So I did have to move it from the ground up into a pot. And we'll see how it does. It will be another blue. And it's right next to a lemon tree. And some flowers for the pollinators. And some of these temple flower shrubs, which we've got going right the way down just to add some structure and a little bit of formality here at the front, since it's viewed from the veranda over here. In these two beds, we have sown corn and beans, okra and tomatoes, along with some zinnias and some holy basil or tulsi. And this piece of drying rack broke off several weeks ago, and I'm thinking of painting it black and using it here in this bed as a trellis for the cherry tomatoes. Now they like to sprawl, but I do want a little room for other flowers and such to spill out of the edge of this bed. So I think just a small trellis there in the middle would help give it some structure and create room for everyone. And then here, you can see the coleus, which has been cut back. But right here in the middle of the bed, we have a pomegranate, which is finally starting to look really happy now that the rains have ended. The dry season is really its season. I don't know whether we will get blooms off of it this year. It might need a few more years. We have more of this dwarf morning glory again, which I managed to take several cuttings or divisions off of the original plant. So I'm looking forward to that filling out around this pomegranate. And then up here at the top, we have what I'm really looking forward to, which is my clementine. We love mandarins, but they're very expensive, almost always imported. They're really sweet little orange mandarins. And so this clementine, when I found it, I was quite excited. And see if it does well. And then we're right back to where we started. And we'll keep you posted in the next few weeks. There's a lot of changes coming. With the wall being painted, trellises going up, and quite a few projects going on further down the side of the house, which we'll share with you sometime in the future. Take care.